And that's it. Okay, see, today class we'll discuss about one point, guys. One small point. Today we have an interview, right? All of you go to the interview. Online people today we have the interview. So we are discussing some interview questions. We have one interview in the company, DLF Delhi, right? Today you can go to the interview. For the interview, I'll ask one small question, guys. Points. Okay, that's it, guys. The next one is like, here you can see the one main class, guys. The last one question, like, explain Ethel Spring Boot application animation. Explain what Ethel Spring Boot application animation. This is annotation here. Ethel Spring Boot application animation here. And just you can place the cursor over the Spring Boot application animation, right? Yeah, if you place the cursor on the Spring Boot application animation here. Okay. Ethel Spring Boot application annotation. Address Spring Boot application annotation, guys. I'll explain this only one annotation. Just you can see that annotation, address Spring Boot application. Address Spring Boot application annotation is equivalent to the three annotations here. Just you can place the cursor over here. And this method, just you can see the data, like you place the cursor. Once if you place the cursor, it's a read this point gets indicates this class is what class here? Configuration class. That declare the one or more what? B methods. Also trigger what auto configurations. Next one is what component scan. So configuration class, this annotation is equal to the three annotations total. That annotation is equal to how many annotations of three. One is what configuration, second one is what component scan, third one is what not P actually configuration, auto configuration, and what component scan. So here he clearly given that three annotations here, copy that tree like this, and here please compress. One is what Spring Boot configuration, enable button auto configuration. Third one is what component scan. I told the component scan, right? Component scan means what? What is a component scan? IOC container scan all the components in the scan all the annotations. IOC container scan what? All the annotations. See guys, this is the main class. This class will act as a, this class what? Act as a configuration class. This class will act as what? Configuration class. I will tell you what the configuration class. This class will act as a configuration class, and this class will act as what? Enable auto configuration. Enable what? Auto configuration is any like built-in support is there. Enable by default what? Auto configure. Third one is what? Let's component scan. Third one is what? Component scan. Yeah, this annotation is equal to how many annotations there total? Three annotations. One is what the Spring Boot configurations. Next one is what? Enable auto configuration. Third one is what? Component scan. There is a component scan, guys. If you open this one here, this is equivalent to the three annotations. So one is what? One is what? Component scan. A Spring Boot configuration class. This class will act as what class, guys? Here? The main class will act as will act as what? Will acts as will what acts as act as what? The main class will act as a configuration class. Act as what configuration class. The main class will act as a configuration class, guys, and it enables the auto configurations. Any predefined support is there. It enables what? Enables the auto configurations. Component scan means it will scan the one annotation, all annotations are On the component scan will scan the we scan what? All annotations in one application. That's it, guys. If you scan one annotation, all annotations are all annotations in application, right? Exactly. And there is number of application is equal to annotations of three. One is the configuration, one is the auto configurations. Spring Boot configuration class, it will act as a configuration class. Will act as what? Configuration class. Second one is what? It enables the auto configuration. Third one is what? The component scan. It will scan one annotation, all annotations. Huh? It will scan all annotations. And it will scan the main package and what? Main package and it will scan all the main packages and bottom up sub packages. Yeah, we scan all the annotations in the main package and what the component scan will scan the annotation, guys. Who will scan this? Spring IOC container. Will scan the IOC. But that is for address Spring application annotation. Explain at the rate, tell me guys, explain what? At the rate Spring Boot application. Hey, how many embedded servers? Huh? How many embedded servers? Three. How many embedded databases? What embedded servers do you know? Tomcat, Betty, huh? Default which one is enabled? Huh? By default, Tomcat is enabled. Good. See guys, if someone is asking what is the advantages of what you can say here, Spring Boot. What the advantage of the Spring Boot over Spring Framework. So initially we have a Spring Framework, later we have one Spring Boot. They are asking the question what the advantages of the Spring Boot over the Spring Framework is. The first point we have to tell is the dependency management. In the Spring, dependencies like we need to select the dependency, what you can say the management. In the Spring, what we and change తీసేసి పద్ధతిగా ప్రొఫెషనల్ కూర్చుంటే ఏం కాదు వాళ్ళు పోయినా జరగడం పోయిన జరగలేదు company. So okay, I'll tell you later. This is Spring Boot application annotation. Equivalent to domain annotation. So three annotations. One is what Spring Boot application. Enable auto configuration and what components now. Class enable auto configuration components now. What's kind components can. What's the advantage of Spring Boot over the Spring Framework? The last first question like that. What the advantage of Spring Boot over the Spring Framework? See guys, two category. But you should be ready for both operations, not for one operation. The person will ask the question like on the Spring Boot reactor, you should be ready. The persons are asking the questions on what? Prime number, factorial number, we should be ready. So total how many categories? Two categories. What is the advantage of Spring Boot over what? Spring Framework. What the advantage of Spring Boot over the Spring Framework means? One is what? Dependency management. In the Spring, we need to get the dependencies like we need to add one jar multiple dependencies are. In Spring, we need to select what? Multiple dependencies. We need to add the multiple one dependency, multiple dependencies are. But in the Spring Boot, we have the concept like what a concept name? Spring Boot, what concept? We have the you don't know generally. Someone said like startup, you roll the starter immediately. But Spring Boot, we have the we have what? We have the starter dependency. So that we can clearly understand that okay, you are aware of starter dependency. You are aware of what? Spring Boot, we have the what dependency is here? Starter dependency. It will pull one jar or multiple jars. It will aggregate and group the multiple jars into what? Multiple dependencies into the single dependency. You tell that line like that. And second one is what means in the Spring we need to install the servers and we need to add the servers and but in the Spring Boot the servers are what? Auto like guys Spring we need to download the server, we need to install the server. What server? Tomcat server. But Spring Boot is what? Spring Boot provides the embedded servers. Embedded what? Servers. The third one is what? In the Spring we need to install the databases to work. In Spring, we need to what? Install a database. But in Spring Boot provides to come up with what? Embedded databases. What database, ma'am? Embedded database. Fourth one is like in the Spring, most we need to focus on more about the configuration. More about configuration. More time we need to spend about the configuration, like XML configuration, like Java-based configuration. We need to write what? More about the configuration. Spring more and more time we need to spend to write what? To write the configuration. Right? What am configuration? But Spring Boot is what? Spring Boot, configurations more, configurations are lesser. Configurations are what? Less. It means everything is auto configured. Everything is what? Auto configured. Right? Good. Next one is component scanning, guys. In the Spring Boot, we need to handle the component scan. We need to write annotation to tell to IOC container, please look into what? My annotations. But Spring Boot is what the component scan is done automatically. Spring Boot what? In the Spring Boot, the component scan, we need to tell to annotation using iterate what? Component scan. But Spring Boot, what the component scan is enabled by default. Enabled what? By default enable. Like that, you tell the 5 points about the Spring versus what Spring Boot. One is the dependency management, servers, or databases, less configurations. Next one is what? Component scans. This is all the information over there. What the advantage of what? Spring Boot over the Spring Framework. Over what? Spring Framework. That is the advantage. Yes. Total we have two questions. One is what? Address Spring Boot application. Address Spring Boot application is equal to how many annotations? What are the annotations? That class will act as what class? Configuration class. Enable what? Auto configurations. Third one is what? Component scan. That's component scan. That is one of the question important. We know dependency injection, right? What a dependency injection? Hey, see, the first person interview, the interview is a Spring Boot generally. They'll ask, like, what is the advantage of the Spring Boot over the Spring Framework? What is dependency injection? What are the types of dependency injection? What is the role of IOC container? How many types of IOC containers we have? What is a component scan? What is the component scan? What is a configuration? What is the role of application or property file? What is the role of application or property file? Spring related configurations we are giving with annotation. We are handling with annotation. But external resource configuration like database configurations, you tell like that. External resource configuration like what? Database configurations, server configuration, external loggers configuration. Like that, we have to tell you what is the purpose of what? What is the purpose of application? Not what column properties. But the advantage application of property file is not used to provide what? Used to provide the external resource. Tell me guys, external resource what? Configuration. What external resource configuration can be here? Database configuration. Server configuration, we change the server port number and server configuration. Third one is what? Logger configuration. Like that, as of now, you know these external resources like that. One is a database outside. External configuration means outside of the string. Loggers inside the string, outside. Outside, because SLFRJ is not for the string, right? Yes or no? Server. Tomcat server is given by Apache company. Server is different. Database is given by different. Maybe you can say like H2 database. H2 database is not part of like the real time. Real time is Oracle database like production environment. So database configurations, so server configurations, so logger configurations. So these configurations are going with what? Application properties. Wait, got it now? That's it, guys. Yeah. So online people today we have the interview. So we have prepared these questions. Prepare these questions, go to interview. Go to go on. That one is the address statement application annotation. Is equal to how many annotations? So 3. The class will act as a configuration class. Spring Boot application is a main. The Spring Boot application. Someone asked the question. Spring Boot when the application execution starts. And the Spring Boot, let me guess in Spring Boot SB, where the application execution starts. From where? From where? The application execution starts. Tell me guys, where the application execution starts? The execution application starts from the main method. You tell the main method which is handled with what? The main method with the annotated with what you say at the returns. Spring Boot application. You can start it. Some people expecting the answer like we can address Spring Boot application. Because see, always you are running the Spring Boot project, but some people don't know where is the main class actually. They didn't check the main class here. So that's what. Here which contains the Spring application dot what method guys here? Run method. Spring application dot what run method. The Spring application class we have. Yeah, this read this point guys. What is the purpose of Spring application class? Spring application class, just we can place the cursor, it is asking what? Class that can be used to bootstrap and launch Spring application from Java main method. By default, the class perform the following steps. Okay, fine. Perform the following steps is not required, just you can copy this line. So then, see this one guys. So, yeah. What is the purpose of what? String application class. Just guys, what is the purpose of what? What is the purpose of what class now? Speaker application. What is purpose Spring application here? The class that use it to launch. That use it to what? Launch the Spring application from Java main method. It is a class. So here we are using what method is here? Run method. So you can you please place the run method cursor if you get this in static. This is a static helper. So what method it is run method? Use a static method. Static method because we can't using what when class. It's a static helper that can use it to what run the Spring application from the specified resource by default settings. Fine. See guys, here the class, what about the Spring application class? There can be Spring application class. See guys, some people will ask the question like where the project execution will start, where the application execution will start. You first start the point with what? You start the point with like some people ask a question like this. First, we need to start the code is what? The main method, which is annotated with what? You tell the first one that annotation information so that we can understand that okay, you are good at that annotations first one. It is input from where application execution starts. Number one. Otherwise, what is the purpose of what? What is the purpose of what? Spring application. Good luck. This is the main method annotated with what about? And then Spring application. And next one is what is Spring application class. What is the purpose of Spring application what class? Spring application class we have the minutes we have the we have what do we have the what is the Spring application class that uses it to launch the Spring application from the Java main method using what method you can say run method. Using what method? Okay. Where that comes the last one, sorry. It's a combination of how many annotations? Three annotations. Address print application equivalent how many annotations? Three, right? What are three? Auto configurations. Maybe you're thinking like components can be scanning all annotations by OC container. Auto configurations, you need to act as a configuration class. Enable auto configuration is what it will automatically enable means that is the point. See, if we add the Spring Boot started web dependency, and what dependency? Web. At the rate enable auto configuration will automatically configure the embedded servers. It automatically what? Configuration required. Enable auto configuration is like that. It automatically enables the Tomcat server. If you add the Spring data, Spring Boot starter data JPA dependency, it automatically configure the data source for the database connections. Are you writing code for the database connection now? Auto created. Auto created. How it is creating this data source class it is using internal. Who will configure means enable auto configuration. Enable auto configuration is responsible when we add the Spring Boot to starter data JPA dependency, it automatically configure what? Data source. For what purpose is here? Database connection. If you Spring Boot starter dependency, security dependency if you add, it automatically take the basic login form. That basic login form you don't need to write it. Basic login form we need to write or no need to write or you don't need to write. By default you will get that. By default you will get this what that is auto configure. So auto configure will auto configure the basic default login forms, username, password soon. And by default configure the Tomcat server. By default configure the data source for the database connections. What annotation is done is all the kernels. These all are done by what? At the rate enable must. If you want one more, if you want, just you can add if you add an HOD dependency, HOD database dependency, it will automatically configure what? Embedded in-memory database, right? That you are configured, automatically configured now. See guys, you added web dependency, server configuration done automatically. If you add the JPA dependency, connection done automatically. If you select the HOD database configured automatically. If you select the security dependency, login form will come automatically with username passwords. Who will do this all? Because of what? Enable what? Automatically configuration is done. Enable auto configuration. That's the power of like at the rate enable auto configuration. So what will ask the question like address Spring Boot application equal to annotation? You told that enable auto configuration. You told that enable auto configuration. Tell me some brief about enable auto configuration. What it enables by default. Then you told that sorry, if I add the web dependency, then Tomcat server is configured automatically. If I add the data JPA dependency, then what happens? Data source object is created, database connection done automatically. If I select the HU database is ready for my project. If I select the security dependency, then what? Login form will come with the default username password. H3 is the permanent database or in-memory database? What is the meaning of in-memory database? Your application started, database ready, application stopped, the data will loss. Dependency management. You tell clear way, just like written a shortcut point. You write a clear way. One is what dependency management. Second one is what embedded servers. Third one is what embedded databases. Fourth one is less configurations. In Spring Boot, we are not writing any XML and Java based configuration. Yes. We are writing what? Annotations. That is like convention over configurations. It means we are following more conventions instead of what? Configurations. Wait, that's all about 20 class. What are the interviews? Integral concept from child.